what he is saying about trans people, about queer people, about women...
I've never seen him say anything negative about women, trans people or queer people.
I'm living on a fairly regular basis with the effects that Jordan Peterson's talks are having on his fan base. But on the other hand,
you're suggesting anyone who does like what he says is a Nazi.
No.
In this video, we are going to watch New Zealander journalist Sean Plunkett completely and so satisfyingly rip an activist to shreds who wants to shut down Jordan Peterson. Now, for those of you who watch the channel, you'll know that I'm a big admirer of Dr. Peterson. So this one definitely holds a soft spot for me because this journalist puts this activist in their place to the point where they have just nothing to say. So without further ado, let's get into the clips.
Group has come out with a press release yesterday that got some coverage saying Jordan Peterson threatens everything of value in our society. Why? Why does telling kids to clean their room up represent the end of civilization as we know it?
What I would say as such is that telling kids to clean their room is probably not a bad thing. The issue comes with that is, pretty far from all that Jordan Peterson is doing.
Not really. That's what his book's about. That's what he's promoting on his tour. Isn't it?
I would say not. If you can, if you take a look at some of what's actually said in the book and many of the media comments he has made elsewhere, it seems quite clear that he has some seriously problematic views.
Name one.
Okay, so let's see. Let's begin with so his interview with Camille Paglia, wherein he effectively has said that, he believes that in discussions with men, he knows how to, he knows where he stands more or less because his honor or something is backed by the threat of physical force. And
his argument is that men can put, men are better at putting barriers around social interaction between each other because there is the implicit and underlying reality that if things get out of control when men have a conversation, there is the possibility of physical violence. And he says that subconscious check on how far or how, if you like, bitchy a conversation can get is tempered by that knowledge. I don't see, does that very suggestion or idea, which I know a lot of people agree with, does that threaten Western civilization and the very foundations and everything of value in our society?
Well, I'm not going to speak about I won't speak about Western civilization and, whether that concept even makes sense. But if you consider something like, consider basically how that kind of statement is going to be read.
No, I think it's going to be read by men saying, we need to think about, the differences, the biological and I guess behavioural differences between sexes. And we need to talk about these things honestly and openly if we're going to make progress on some of the issues of gender in our society.
All right, but in a cultural milieu where, frankly, homosexuals are still getting beaten up, we have ridiculous rates of domestic partner violence. Yeah. Frankly, in the last few months...
So just want to check, has Jordan Peterson, to your knowledge, ever beaten his wife or beaten up a homosexual?
No.
Has he ever advocated people beat their wives or beat homosexuals?
I don't believe he has.
No, so that'd be a no, right?
So the reason why I love this interview so much is because, like me, this guy Sean Plunkett really knows his Jordan Peterson well. Clearly, he's done his research and his analysis of the man's work. So any of these little objections are just total layups for him. And I know this might sound cocky, but I don't think there is a human being on this planet that could debate me about the fact that Jordan Peterson is a net good. A few have tried, all have failed. But this activist, on the other hand, who not only speaks like they have a stick jammed up their bottom, but their attitude and general worldview suggests a similar plight, has absolutely zero idea what Jordan Peterson stands for. She's literally not saying anything and just saying random talking points that don't even make any sense. And then her contention is that he is a threat to everything of value in society. Okay, sure. You see, It's so obvious by now that the people who hate Jordan Peterson, I mean to a T, every single one of them that I've seen or heard, are the same kinds of people that want to burn down buildings and not conform to beauty standards and make everything ugly and miserable. They are fundamentally just resentful people who hate competence, and they hate the fact that he is empowering millions of people around the world, because that's not allowed. And just for a little bit more context before the next clip, New Zealand is one of, if not the most woke countries in the world. They were under the iron fist of the smiling authoritarian World Economic Forum young leader Jacinda Ardern for 5 years, and they have been completely engulfed, swallowed by the ideas of identity politics and wokeism, demonstrated by the shutting down and the assault of Posey Parker earlier this year when she came to the country to espouse her inflammatory and basically Nazi rhetoric, that is, women don't have penises. On to the next clip. Before we continue this video, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up, it would help me enormously with my algorithms, pushing this video out far and wide and helping to spread the message of Rattlesnake TV. And if you guys haven't subscribed, welcome to the family.
Can I please, could I please continue?
Yeah.
So, the fact of the matter is that Jordan Peterson has a large platform. There are many people paying attention to him.
Yeah.
And if you're making statements in such a situation, it is vitally important that that the statements you make cannot be misread in such a way as to promote...
Which is, he's hardly responsible for the misreading of his statements, is he?
I would say that, look, everyone has made kind of... If you do it once, yes. If you do it repeatedly...
Do what repeatedly? Talk about things you're interested in an open and intellectual way. That's all he does. Or do you think Iris, do you think he should be shut down? Do you think his ideas are too dangerous and he shouldn't be allowed to speak in New Zealand?
I don't believe he should be shut down, hence why we're not doing that. The issue, however, is that his ideas are rather more problematic than I feel you're giving him credit for.
Which ideas? Which ones specifically? That you should clean your room? That you should hold your shoulders back? That you should take responsibility for your own life? That people shouldn't be compelled by governments to use particular words in particular circumstances?
Okay, the one about particular words in particular circumstances. Yes, I agree that it would be ridiculous to make the government to force, effectively to use the threat of governmental force to do that.
Yeah.
But the way the statements are being read in the media, including by some people...
Yeah, well, he can't be responsible for the stupidity of people reading his statements, can he?
Again, as I'm saying, so do you think that people are not responsible for... Do you feel that people are never responsible for the effects of the things they say?
No, not particularly, but I'd also say that it would seem to me from my observation of the impact that Jordan Peterson has had on people's lives that it's been overwhelmingly positive for a huge number of people, which is why he's so incredibly popular.
I would point out that you can say the same thing about a lot of fascist movements. They have a very positive effect on the lives of many young men.
Are you saying that he's a fascist?
No, I'm not saying that he's a fascist.
Okay, good.
I am saying that he is exploiting a lot of the same kind of basic...
How's he exploiting anything? He doesn't compel anyone to go to his talks, to look at his stuff on YouTube. How's that exploiting anyone?
I'm not saying... I mean exploiting in the terms of he is using the same... he is using the same basic psychological mechanisms to build his base.
Well, what base? He's just saying what he thinks and people happen to be interested. Are you suggesting he's running some campaign to destroy the Western world?
Hardly. I just think I just think that he is a very irresponsible man who is making...
Okay, well, let's talk about responsibility, shall we? And your group, Auckland Peace Action. You would like people not to go and see certain films, and you're happy to physically intercede to stop them seeing certain films. And in fact, your Wellington branch bought fake bombs to create terror in 2018 at a film festival and stop people watching a film about Ben Gurion, right? Is that right, Iris?
Factually correct, so you're putting a very negative spin on it.
I'm not. Well, it's just fact. I was just saying some facts, mate.
Oh, putting a very negative spin on you planting fake bombs in a movie theater.
Run.
Oh, sorry. Hold on 1 second while I just conjure up a positive narrative about you engaging in literal terrorism. Our world is so funny sometimes. When you look at George Orwell's work, it's really hard to believe how accurate he was with some of his concepts. The word Orwellian is almost losing its gravity these days because there are so many good examples of it, including the following. This activists group is called Peace Action Auckland, and their whole agenda is to shut down anything that is not radical left-wing dialogue, even if they have to use literal, actual terrorism to do so. In case you didn't notice, that is the total and utter antithesis of peaceful. But this is what we are seeing a lot of these days. Pure and utter deception and bastardization of language used as a tactic to gain power by these activists, and it is truly disgraceful. But the worst part about it is that most people are too busy in their personal lives to really research about this and understand it. They simply believe what they read. Peace action. Oh, must be peaceful. Political correctness. Must be correct. Anti-fascists. They must be fighting actual fascists. Yeah, right. Now let's watch this exchange continue and how Sean just effortlessly, repeatedly dismantles this activist's very confused worldview until she is literally stumped. It's glorious.
I mean, that's the thing, though.
So what do you think is a greater threat to our society? Threatening to plant fake bombs in a movie theatre and telling people they can't go and see a movie because your group doesn't like it. Do you think that's a greater threat to our society than Jordan Peterson booking out a hall and say, pay some money and come and see me if you want?
I mean, I would say that Jordan Peterson is certainly a greater threat to marginalised groups in society. I can tell you that what he is saying about trans people, about queer people, about women...
I've never seen him say anything negative about women, trans people or queer people.
But on the other hand,
you're suggesting anyone who does like what he says is a Nazi, and that seems pretty wild. I've never seen him be homophobic, transphobic or misogynistic. And I believe me, I've watched a lot of what Jordan Peterson says and does. I've never once, anywhere, seen him be misogynistic, homophobic or transphobic. Can you point me to an example where he has been? Iris?
What do you mean by what in this case do you mean by an example? What I am saying is...
an example where he in any way is misogynistic, homophobic or transphobic.
So you do not feel that effectively saying that women are... So just to be clear, you don't feel that saying that women wear lipstick to work in order to appear sexually provocative is not...
He's not saying that, and he's never said that. What he said, Iris, is if we accept, we've got to have some rules. He understands the biology of men and women, and he says men need to respect women's boundaries, and he is always very, very clear about that. But he says if we're going to have a desexualised workplace... If we're going to have a set of rules, let's be very clear about what those rules are. He would argue that makeup, right, that makeup is designed as a sexual display in its pure, in an academic sense. People put on makeup or have traditionally put on makeup as a sexual display. And he said, okay, if we're going to have workplaces where sex and any sort of interaction of that nature between the genders is off the agenda, maybe we need to think about makeup in the workplace. He is not accusing women. He's not slut-shaming, and he's not sitting there saying, women bring it on themselves. He's just saying we need to be realistic about what the rules and boundaries are.
Okay, so a question for you, if you will. So Jordan Peterson says things which clearly are, which you clearly feel are, not problematic.
Well, no, millions of people think is not problematic, and millions of people seem to think he's saying stuff that no one's had the balls to say for a while, and they're on board with him.
Saying stuff that no one's had the balls to say is really pretty passé. It's frankly...
Isn't it? That's what I'd say your movement prides itself on doing.
Yes, but we aren't saying it simply to, because no one else has the balls to say it. We say it because we genuinely believe in our political position.
And I'm sure that Jordan Peterson genuinely believes in his. And actually, to be honest, they seem more mainstream and less of a threat to society than buying fake bombs to scare people out of going to see a movie in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's not going well for our friend here, and the onslaught is not over yet, guys. So far, what this debate has been is a constant stream of pure, uneducated, unadulterated garbage versus simple logic. It's like this person has never been challenged on their worldview before, and instead they've just been existing in the worst kind of echo chamber. All Sean has to do is take what she says and repeat it to her, explicitly stating the logic that she is espousing in a more clear format, and she totally and utterly crumbles into a speechless mess.
Iris?
It's too easy. I don't know how anybody could take this person seriously. But on to the next part now, where Iris, this activist, blows the lid off of Jordan Peterson's true agenda and exposes him and his fans for what they truly are. And even for me, the most fervent of JP supporters, it is very difficult to defend the damning evidence that she is about to present.
So, just out of curiosity, how do you feel about what kind of effect do you think that, say, bombing civilians has on society? Because that's what we're fundamentally about opposing.
Okay, are you saying Jordan Peterson bombs civilians?
No, I'm not. What I'm saying...
Then why, when we're talking about your press release about Jordan Peterson, would you bring that up?
Well, why do you keep on bringing up the stuff about,
Because it's your group that put out the press release, and it's your group that bought fake bombs and said that people shouldn't go and see a movie you didn't like in a free country.
Oh, dear Lord. Well, let me put it this way, if you would. Like, if you're going to... Look, if you're judging us by the effect of... Okay, how to phrase this?
Iris, I might just be suggesting that your press release is a little bit over the top. Are you prepared to admit that on the back of this interview?
No. Simply because I'm living kind of on a fairly regular basis with the effects that Jordan Peterson's talks are having on his, fan base. We are getting repeated, consistent harassment from Jordan Peterson fans.
How do you know they're Jordan Peterson fans?
Because they say so.
So Jordan Peterson is inciting people to hate on you?
Yes. He is inciting people to hate on minorities.
Give me an example. Give me an example.
Okay, so in the wake of the press release, we are getting an awful lot of... Look, we got an email from frankly what appears to be a white nationalist.
Yeah.
Suggesting that we take a look at a whole bunch of, frankly, Nazi videos.
Yeah. Are they Jordan Peterson Nazi videos? No.
No, they aren't.
Okay, so what's he got to do with that email from the Nazi?
Well, the fact of the matter is that his fan base are the same fan base that are sending the...
No, they're not. I'm part of his fan base. I'm not a Nazi.
I'm not suggesting that you are, but on the other hand...
Well, you're suggesting anyone who does like what he says is a Nazi, and that seems pretty wild.
What I'm suggesting is that he has created a certain subset of his fans, which may not be the same subset as you are a part of. In fact, I'm pretty sure they aren't. Yes?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Is behaving in frankly quite disgraceful way.
Then it is the subset of his fans that represent the threat to everything of value in our society, not Jordan Peterson, right?
Right, but you can say...
So why didn't you say that in your press release and said that it was Jordan Peterson who represented the threat to everything of value in our society?
Because Jordan Peterson is causing for his fans to coalesce. He is encouraging...
No, he's not. He's just saying what he thinks.
All right, so just out of curiosity, all right, but where do you draw the line as to where do you draw the line as to responsibility for what you've said, though?
Yeah.
I mean, surely you can't say that he holds absolutely no responsibility for the behaviour of people who, effectively, behaviour of people who listen to him assiduously and take...
Well, I'd be more worried about the consequences of buying a fake bomb to scare someone out of a movie theatre, to be honest, Iris.
Look,
And I hate to say it, I think most New Zealanders would as well.
So Iris mentioned there that the best thing that they can do in order to counteract Dr. Peterson is to make people aware of what his views are and also what he's said, who his fan base are, and how they behave. So going with that logic, obviously they must be making everybody aware that Jordan Peterson encourages the adoption of responsibility and building yourself up to be the most competent individual that you can possibly be, so that one day you can have a family, maybe be responsible for them, and even down the line, you can be responsible for a community. And they must also be telling everybody that he has millions of fans around the world who, because of his work, have become better and more responsible individuals. And that because of the adoption of said responsibility, these millions of people around the world have found a greater degree of meaning in their lives, which has positively impacted them and everybody around them. I'm just going by her logic. That must be what she's telling everybody. But you know what's really funny about what she just said? The example that she gave was that somebody who they thought to be a white nationalist emailed them and told them to watch Nazi videos. Firstly, and pretty obviously, what they mean by white nationalist and what they mean by Nazi is anybody's guess, especially considering how loosely those terms are thrown around these days. And also, there was zero evidence that they were even Jordan Peterson fans. And moreover, this person is completely out of touch with reality and culture, because the far right individuals and the white nationalists hate Jordan Peterson. The people who are of that ideological persuasion think that Jordan Peterson is a Jewish simp and shill. They hate him. They hate Ben Shapiro. They hate the Daily Wire. Yet this individual, with her low-resolution thinking, grabs anybody who has a mildly conservative worldview and puts them all in the same basket of Nazis. And that truly is the hallmark of an individual with a very unsophisticated worldview. The kind that should definitely be relegated to the outer fringes of our political discourse and should never be taken seriously in any mainstream context. But that's just me being hopeful. And hopeful I shall remain. And hopefully you guys check me out on social medias. Hopefully you check out my other pages, and hopefully you click right here to watch another video. Until next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.